Hey, what's up? You caught me snacking, but you never caught me lacking. This is the second episode of Ballin with Bump. I'm going to bring you my week 2 analysis of a couple games that I had my eyes on. This week we saw the Buccaneers raid the Panthers, saw the Ravens fly over the Cardinals, the Lions pounced on the Chargers, the Colts ran past the Titans right by a nose at the finish line, 49ers tamed the Bengals, the Texans rounded up the Jaguars, Packers sent the Vikings packing, Cowboys beat the Redskins. I'm not going to make a joke about that one. The Seahawks soared over the Steelers. The Bills just beat the Giants. That's it. They stampeded them. The Patriots turned the Dolphins into tuna. The Chiefs speared the Raiders. The Rams rammed the Saints. The Bears clawed the victory over the Broncos. The Falcons flew past the Eagles, and the Browns doo-dooed all over the Jets. First game that I watched this weekend was, of course, the Patriots versus the Dolphins. I pretty much watched that whole game. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a Patriots fan, so there's a little bit of bias when it comes to my analysis, but not really that much. What I saw out of the Patriots was another methodical opening drive where, they received a punt in a pretty good position, which I'll address that later. They had 10 plays, 57 yards, pass, run, pass, run. They got Sony Michel involved early, and they kept that trend going throughout the game. He rounded up 85 yards, capped off that opening drive with a 1-yard touchdown run, just pounded it right into the end zone in typical Patriot fashion. We did see the debut of Antonio Brown in a Patriots jersey. His first drive, he had 3 targets, 3 receptions, and capped that off with a touchdown. Nice back shoulder throw right there in the end zone. Tom Brady went 20 for 28, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. The patented Tom Brady quarterback sneak right there at the goal line to get another rushing touchdown and add that to his resume. What I did see out of that game, I noticed the defense of the Patriots looking very scary. Probably the best we've ever had, honestly. Not just a real long time, the best we've ever had. 4 interceptions, 6 sacks, and 2 pick sixes. That's a great defensive showing. Granted, we've played the Dolphins and the Steelers, both teams looking pretty lackadaisical. It's something to look forward to when it comes to the Patriots. Defense isn't always our focal point. Despite Bill Belichick being the coach, the Patriots need to address some issues at the offensive line and keep Tom Brady in the game. He's 42 years old. We got to protect our quarterback. The Dolphins need to address some special teams concerns. There were 2 punts where the punter barely kicked it 40 yards. On top of that, they need to address some defensive issues where it looked like there was no urgency when it came to attacking the ball. They just let these plays slip right by, almost as if there's no discipline or they're really just tanking. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 11 for 21, 89 yards and 3 interceptions. Rosen came in. He threw 7 for 18 and he got 97 yards. But that was towards the end of the game, playing in garbage time. He had the last drive of the game, he got right down to the end zone and threw an interception. If you're in Miami, the only thing you have to look forward to is the weather and the women. I'm sorry about that. Let's move on from there to the Saints and the Rams, where the Rams overcame the Saints. It was a defensive showing bright and early. It makes me wonder how differently that game would have gone if Drew Brees didn't get bruised up. We saw Teddy Bridgewater come in. Love to see Teddy Bridgewater play. Hasn't really had much of a chance since tearing up his knee in Minnesota. He came in 17 for 30 for the rest of the game, 165 yards. Not a bad effort. In an offense that's designed for Drew Brees, who's, his main objective is to pass the ball, pass it quick, or pass it far. The Saints defense, they had a touchdown called back. Cam Jordan was upset about that. I would be too if I was him. But they also came through with 3 sacks on the day. They got to Goff and they goofed him up. Goff shined in that game though, throwing 283 yards and a touchdown. Todd Gurley, he had 63 yards and 1 touchdown. Their rushing game is going to be strong with that 2-headed monster approach. They've got Gurley, they've got Brown. 63 yards, 37 yards. The Rams have no problem with letting Goff get a little break with that rushing game. Pass rush looked pretty good. 2 sacks, but they put a lot of pressure on Bridgewater, and he wasn't able to do much, 17 for 30. He was rushed a lot in the pocket, evident through the way that they got Brees out of the game. Aaron Donald with the hit on the quarterback, he hit him in the hand, and we still haven't heard what's going on with Drew Brees. They're saying 6 weeks. He's looking for a second opinion. And hopefully he can come back sooner and give the Saints that push they need to make it through the playoffs. Otherwise, I see Sean Payton and his coordinators coming up with some type of game plan designed for Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill to share some reps and get that ball moving down the field. It's hard to say that I see the Saints continuing to do well without Drew Brees, but I do. They have 2 reliable backup quarterbacks, and not a lot of teams have that right now. Not a lot of teams have their starting quarterbacks right now, so that's going to be a story to watch. I'll be watching the New Orleans Saints all season. Let's move on from there to the Monday night game where we had the Browns take on the Jets. As expected, with mononucleosis running rampant in the Jets locker room, the Browns took the win. The Jets, they might have a curse on them. They got mono. They don't have Simeon anymore. That injury was pretty graphic. I haven't heard anything from that yet. Saw Simeon get hurt in that game and Luke Falk come in, the backup quarterback. He came in and he had a good showing. 19 completions out of 24 attempts, 196 yards. Le'Veon Bell had a good game with 129 yards from scrimmage. I think that game would have went a little bit differently if they had got him more involved early. I'd like to see more involvement from Le'Veon Bell, and he would like to see more involvement from himself too. It was evident that throughout the game he continued to show that same amount of effort, that same amount of drive, and he continued to put on for his team. What really opened my eyes in that game was the Browns pass rush. That defense we were all hyped up about. It came to shine early and quick. Myles Garrett with 3 sacks on the night. The Browns pass rush had 4 sacks total. They ended up rushing the quarterbacks all night and putting constant pressure on them. They had a really good showing, a really good effort. If they bring that into next week, we could see an upset in Cleveland with them taking on the Rams. So for all the Browns hopefuls, I hope for you too. Because you got Baker Mayfield. And what he did, he came out, he put his pocket mobility on display, which was very impressive to me. And his reads were also impressive. There were periods in the game where he would make his checkdowns, and he needs to do that more often. Because what he does that doesn't get brought up a lot is he'll lead the receivers into a lot of dangerous positions. I don't know if he's just not aware of his own arm strength, or I don't know if he's trying to give his wide receivers more highlight film. He puts his receivers in a lot of precarious positions. I love to watch the kid play. His receivers aren't going to want to play with them if he keeps putting them in dangerous positions. You saw David Njoku get toppled over on top of his head and land right on his neck. And we still have no word on what's going on with Njoku. I'm going to look for Baker Mayfield to bring that ball down a little bit more, start hitting his receivers right in the numbers, and hopefully Freddie Kitchens addresses that when watching film, because it's clear as day to me the danger he's putting his receivers in. We saw OBJ get sandwiched. The Jets secondary made an OB and J sandwich out of him. We saw him overthrow OBJ on a wide open route where it could have ended up being a touchdown. You know, he only threw for 1 touchdown on the game with his 325 yards. And if you were watching at the end of the game, he threw a needless interception when he had the check down wide open. He's got a lot of confidence. It makes him want to go for broke a little bit too much sometimes, in my opinion. Look at that. We got a friend. I'm going to bring you my game of the week, which was the Bears versus the Broncos. Another dramatic game that came right down to the end. It had a strong showing of defense on both sides. Joe Flacco came out. He made a lot of good throws. Being a veteran quarterback, he made his checkdowns. He made the right reads. And listen, that last touchdown of the night, the one that put them up at the end to Emmanuel Sanders, that was one hell of a throw. Right there in the corner of the end zone where the only person who could grab it was Sanders. You know, that put them right on top for the end of the game. The Bears get a hold of the ball, and somebody who hasn't done much all season, Mitchell Trubisky, comes down the field, steps up in the pocket, and makes a throw that puts them right in the position they needed to be in with 1 second left on the clock. Now, I don't know if they called the timeout on time. You know, this was a very dramatic ending of a game, but they gave them the kick. They got the field goal. They won the game right there with no time left on the clock. Trubisky You know, he threw for 120 yards on the night on 27 attempts. Is he the quarterback that we all thought he would be? I don't think so. I think they need to start looking for other options over there because he's not going to win them games. That Bears rushing game is much stronger than Trubisky's arm. You know, and he's got a lot of time. He doesn't get hit with much pressure. Offensive line held off Bradley Chubb and Von Miller all night. There were no sacks on that game. So what are we going to see from them moving forward? That game was full of defense and full of a strong rushing game from the Bears, and Joe Flacco being Joe Flacco, that elite quarterback that we all said he would never be. Right down to the wire, playoff atmosphere. That's the type of stuff I want to see in a game of the week. First things first, I'm going to give out an honorable mention to Adrian Peterson for his 107th touchdown, passing Jim Brown for 5th place on the all-time rushing touchdown list. What a great accomplishment. Dude has had one hell of a career, and he's continuing to play. You know, I'd love to name him an actual MVP of the week, one week where he rushes for 150 yards. We'll see what happens. You know, the Redskins have got off to a bit of a shaky start. But our real MVP of the week is going to be Lamar Jackson, who's done something that hasn't been done since Colin Kaepernick did it in 2013 against the Green Bay Packers, where he had 24 completions for 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 16 rush attempts, and 120 yards. Not only did he do that, he did it against a scary Cardinals pass rush. You know, they come out and they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. That's what I saw out of that game was Lamar Jackson was making throws right at the last second that he had. And, you know, he didn't have a lot of time in the pocket a lot, you know, and that's what caused him to make some of these incredible rushes is that he had to move out of the pocket, get down to the sideline and do what he could. And he did a lot with that, as evident through the 120 yards. Not bad for a quarterback, huh? Congrats to Lamar Jackson for being the Ballin with Bump MVP of the week. This week I'm going to give you my Thursday night prediction. We have the Jags versus the Titans. The Jaguars have a little bit of turmoil going on in the locker room. And is that going to be an issue? Is there going to be a movement made before Thursday? Is Jalen Ramsey going to play for the Jaguars on Thursday? If not, the secondary has a big advantage in Tennessee. They have a great secondary, and they also have a great pass rush. So do the Jaguars. They're pretty evenly matched. It's going to be a great game to watch. Each one of their games has been a defensive showing. I mean, besides, you know, there's not much you can do against Kansas City. They're evenly matched in the passing game. Both quarterbacks aren't afraid to run. Minshew, he came out, he had a great game, and I expect him to do it again next week. I'm going to give the advantage of that game to the Tennessee Titans. They did lose this week. They lost to the Colts. But I want to see how the Jaguars defense sorts itself out through this next week. See if any of that turmoil boils over into gameplay. So I'm going to expect a Tennessee Titans win. If you're from Jacksonville and you watch this, don't hate me. It's just what I see. There's some stuff going on down there, and you know, you don't have Derrick Henry. You have Leonard Fournette, and he's not coming out and showing out like Henry is. Leonard Fournette's being kind of quiet. So you either got to wake him up or you're going to get pounced on. This is Ballin' with Bump Week 2. Thank you for watching. If you have any discrepancies, if you think there was a different MVP of the week, drop it below in the comments. If you have a different game of the week that you thought was the best game to watch, drop it in the comments. I'm open to hear whatever suggestions you guys have, whatever you've been watching that you see. I want to know. Let me hear it. Thank you for watching, and hold on tight till Thursday, because I know these days without football, they can be kind of rough. See ya.